The $34 billion acquisition of Red Hat by IBM is in the works. Stephen J. Vaughan-Nichols with ZDNet is here to talk to us a little bit more about this acquisition. Stephen, where does it stand right now?
Well, they're still in progress, and we're looking for the second half of this year. The FTC's already given its blessing. SEC won't be far behind, so it's should be good to go soon.
Okay, Stephen, talk a little bit about the acquisition itself. What does it mean for both companies? What do tech leaders think about it as well?
Well, it's only the biggest technology deal ever, arguably the biggest acquisition ever, period, throughout all of business. $34 billion is not small change for anyone, not even IBM. And the hope is that it will help revitalize IBM. IBM has had its trouble in recent years. It sort of has fallen off the leadership board. It's Microsoft and Amazon Web Services and Google have all sort of taken the lead in the IT space, which is where, of course, IBM lives. You know, Red Hat, on the other hand, has been doing very well for itself as an independent company. It was the first billion-dollar open source company, then the first $2 billion annual revenue open source company. So they've done really well for themselves, but they wanted to take the next step up to being not just a major player, but one of the top tier players in the IT space. So the deal really made sense for both companies, and we'll see where it goes from here. It is a big gamble, particularly for IBM, but as IBM's CEO has said, you know, she's not spending $34 billion to waste it. She has great hopes for the acquisition, and so do I. It has a lot of people worried simply because it is such a big deal. And, you know, nevertheless, I've spoken to a lot of IBM and Red Hat executives and also people in the trenches and analysts. And I would say cautiously optimistic is where we are at today.
So people are cautiously optimistic, though, that this will be a good thing, a good move for IBM. Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah. Again, it's, you know, there are a lot of people who are worried about it. They're afraid that IBM will try to make Red Hat just become another division and order them around the way that so many other IBM divisions have been in the past. So that's a real concern. But you know what? I think IBM has learned their lessons, and they really want Red Hat to be more of an example of how IBM should be, which is to say a company that uses an open source approach, not just in creating software, but in how they manage people and how they, you know, ideas can percolate from the bottom up. It's not really a top-down kind of company. And, you know, that's going to be a big challenge. IBM is much larger than Red Hat. But on the other hand, again, having spoken to everybody who's concerned, I think they know what the problems are ahead of them, and they're going at it in a very optimistic, we are going to make this happen kind of way, rather than just doing, you know, more of the same old, same old.
Well, Stephen, what do you think in terms of, you know, what does this mean for the future of acquisitions that are still to come after one this size? What does it mean? What are the implications?
You know, I don't really know what it means. I don't see other companies doing an acquisition this big. I just don't see that happening. I can't really even think of anyone that would be, you know, in the market. There are certainly other substantial Linux and open source companies like SUSE in Europe and Canonical, but I don't see them going in that path. And in any case, the deals would be, you know, an order of magnitude smaller.
And Stephen, you mentioned the second half of this year is when we anticipate this going through, but are there any roadblocks still ahead, or what are they still looking at here?
I really don't see any. I think the only reason why it will be done slowly and carefully is The scale of the deal requires them to take their time and make sure they do it right for all the reasons I've suggested earlier. I mean, it is going to be a big cultural change for both companies. They're doing their best to let Red Hat be Red Hat and not have IBM just dominate them and sort of ruin the special things that make Red Hat the successful company that it has been. And then later to take that successful Red Hat culture and bring it into IBM, and so that IBM can start becoming more of a forward-looking creative company. So I guess they're doing their own due diligence in-house is how I would put it.
Okay, and Stephen, before we let you go, in terms of the way that the Red Hat employees feel at this moment, is there much concern on their end as to what this will mean, for their culture?
There is. They're very nervous about it, understandably so. Most big mergers and acquisitions don't go that well for the people in the smaller company. I mean, of course, that's not always the case, but they're, understandably worried about it. But again, I've spoken enough to the brass at both companies to think that, they can, of course, they're going to have to see it to believe it, but I think they can relax knowing that both IBM's and Red Hat's executive suites really want to make this happen in a way that's going to preserve Red Hat's culture from everything from not just how they do their business, but from people in public relations and human resources. Their jobs aren't going to go away. Everyone who's currently employed by Red Hat is probably going to continue to be employed by Red Hat, and all of which takes a lot of doing. But I see the companies doing those things needed to make this a successful merger, and one that will be to the advantage of not just both companies, but to the employees as well.
All right. Well, certainly all eyes, Stephen, will be on this as things continue to progress. And we appreciate your insight on this. And for more on IBM's acquisition of Red Hat, make sure you check out Stephen's full article on ZDNet.